The great Bobby Belt.
Bobby Belt is an idiot.
Don't make me take off my belt.
Don't make me take off my belt.
We're not.
Over to you, Bobby.
How we doing, guys? Right kind of guy.
Guys.
What else do we have? Dallas football Cowboys. Are we going to hear that from Brian Schottenheimer now? Yeah, we're going to get some clapping. What if I told you you just hired a more charismatic, cockier, more modern version of Jason Garrett?
I find it hard to believe you'd be more charismatic than Jason.
If you get a more aggressive version of Jason Garrett on the chalkboard, but you get to retain his culture that he had here, would you take that kind of a coach as a replacement for McCarthy? Or do you say, I didn't love the Jason Garrett culture to begin with? Because I think that's ultimately what Brian Schottenheimer is going to try and instill here, is a culture similar to what Jason Garrett always sought to achieve and maybe fell short at times.
How do you think Jason's culture was different from Mike's, Choppy?
Well, I thought they were both like generally pretty good cultures.
Agree.
I think that Jason's culture was more like, I don't want to say one message, right? A singular focus. It felt like,
What's your one thing?
one thing. It felt like there was a little bit more, and this is really kind of strange because I think we know how Jason got the job, but I think there was more. I feel like there was more backstabbing going on in the Mike one.
I think so. Yeah.
And not necessarily by like any one person in particular, just like
There's some people who think Jason backstabbed to get his job.
Oh, I was the first one to say it on the radio.
Oh, you said it.
I said it in 2010.
Wow.
Yeah, cite him.
Yeah, cite me, damn it. But look, once he took over, that was gone. It was all the messaging, all the corny quotes.
Let me just speak for a lot of the Tolos probably. Anything you sell me on and soup up this, that, and it mentions Jason Garrett,
Yep.
no personal offense, I'm not going to get excited about it. So I hope that it's a different, better version, period.
Yeah, and I think if you're talking about what are the differences between what the culture was here under Mike McCarthy and what are the differences between the culture when it was Jason Garrett, I think one word comes to mind for me: emotion. This was a much more emotional culture with Mike McCarthy, and I don't think in a good way. Jason Garrett, the thing everybody hated, trust the process, and we're this and that, and we never get too high, never get too low. When you would hear Jason expand it in other settings, like when he went to Princeton, and he had that big talk with that forum, you got a little bit more of a sense of what he talked about, which he said, if I have a baseline, if I say this is the way we operate every day, then there's nothing that will be unexpected. You will never be caught off guard by something because you just go, this is what we do. We do this regardless. I understood the pitch, and it was effective at times. It really protected them at times where they could have gotten distracted. There were also other times where people felt like, well, it made you play down to competition at times. You weren't as locked in. You weren't as jacked up. You didn't have that sort of motivation. Whereas with the McCarthy era, I think there was definitely a lot more, hey, you know what they're saying about us out there, guys? And there was a lot more about letting that stuff in at times purposefully, and some of you went with the ebbs and flows. Mike McCarthy would go with the highs sometimes, and he would go with the lows at times, and that, I think it went to the team as well. Now you could say, I want them to feel bad when things are going well. I don't want them to act like nothing's wrong. There's both sides of this that you can play, but I do think yesterday when you hear Brian Schottenheimer talk, his big thing is culture, culture, culture. That's what he wants. That's what he needs. It was, Jane asked him near the end of the press conference, said, what do you, whenever you leave Dallas eventually, what do you want to be remembered as? And he threw out there first, he's like, well, first a champion. And they said, but he wanted to be viewed as the architect of, quote, one of the greatest cultures professional sports has ever seen.
Wow.
That was his top line item, which tells me that was the top line item he really pushed to Jerry and Steven, and what Jerry and Steven must have loved. Because he wanted to drive home over and over again, that's what we're doing.
They clearly love the culture, and Brian is probably no dummy. The way he talked, let's just play cut 10, Peyton. If you sign your quarterback up to $60 million, you have to have the head coach and offensive mind be in love with the quarterback fit, and we got that yesterday.
You know, iron sharpens iron, and Dak and I have an incredible relationship, just like I have an incredible relationship with all these guys. Dak and I know how to push each other's buttons. We know how to have hard conversations. I laugh because I think about in training camp last year. A ball got intercepted, and we kind of had a thing in place where it was like, if you throw an interception, you come out. And so I took Dak out, and he's like, what? Like, he pushed back. He's like, ah. And the competitor in him is special. And so I think he and I working together, along with the rest of the guys, putting together the system, there'll be tweaks. There's going to be changes. He's the type of worker that changes an entire organization. And I think he and I see the game of football offensively very, very similar. And we'll have tons of communication moving forward on some of the thoughts of things we want to do, whether it's tempo or, some of the different things we're trying to do with our play action passing game, the run game, things like that. But he's easy to talk to, and I love and respect him along with all those guys.
The way it came across in small, again, a lot of this is being guilty of reading between the lines too much, but it's the Cowboys, right?
Yeah, I do.
We always try to translate Jerry.
Hard.
You got little bits here and there where it seemed like to me, Brian and Dak were in the hallway or a side room going, God, let's do this. Let's do this. And Mike's doing that. Just a little of those tidbits I get. But in terms of selling the Jones family, it was clear as day. It was clear as day what landed with them. Loving Dak, the bro-to-bro relationship that they seem to have, family with dad and Marty and mom, modernizing the offense, moving forward a little bit from what McCarthy had, and then culture. That just... I could see Jerry and Steven and the antennas going up, loving it.
Yeah, and I know you're speaking for you. I'll speak for me. So this is not Sean saying, this is me. When you say you think there was a little bit of that with Dak and Schottenheimer, I think there was a lot of that. And I think there was a lot of that in 23. That's when a lot of the offense changed after the bye week. I think that was very player-driven with Schottenheimer kind of overseeing and lobbying to Mike on their behalf of Mike, the guys want to do that. That's why I think so many of the players trust him. When they won out in the fight for the offense in 2023, the players did in the middle of the season, that was in large part viewed as Brian Schottenheimer was our advocate that managed to get this done for us. And I think that's...
Yeah. And that's where the relationship, though, will be more difficult as it goes on, because now it's a different position for Schottenheimer. He's not the friend go-to guy anymore.
Right. Yeah.
He's going to have somebody else.
There is that. I think he also he would sometimes.
You can't always be good cop.
He would reverse that sometimes, though. I think Mike would try to instill, and Schottenheimer's job would be, all right, I'm going to tell the players, guys, this is what you need to do. That's where, to be honest, it did create probably in the last 2 years a little bit of an uneven playing field. Like, was Mike always viewed as the ultimate authority or who they wanted to lobby to when they wanted something to get done? That probably created naturally not the best environment for everybody to be moving forward on the same thing. Here was the thing that I took away from this press conference, though, yesterday with Schottenheimer. There's a big difference between talking the talk and walking the walk. That was Jimmy always used to say that. If you're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk. Jimmy used to scream that at the Cowboys all the time. So words ultimately aren't going to mean much. Just like how people were saying, I don't care what he says at the press conference. I need to see him win. I was really impressed with how Schottenheimer continued to underline definitive things that, like, not just this is my goal, we're doing this.
Yeah.
These were some of the things he said yesterday. Dak's going to play elite level football, and he's going to lead us to championships. We're going to do a great job of marrying our runs and our passes and make those look the same. I'm ready now. I know what I want. I know what it looks like.
Yep.
I'm really good with X's and O's. I'm great with people. We're going to build this thing the right way. We're going to get the culture right. And that's a characteristic that he got from Marty. So Schotty's talked about this quote
Which
before.
Ross Tucker at the top of the hour, if y'all missed it, Ross Tucker said, I played for Gibbs, Parcells, and Belichick, and Marty Schottenheimer was my best coach of them all. Wow.
Massive praise. And the line that he got from his dad, he's mentioned this before Dallas. He's mentioned it while he's been in Dallas. One of his dad's sayings to his team was, expect to win. Expect to win, expect to win, expect to win. And Schotty's always said it was a combination. Expect to win is one part like awesome preparation, and then another part confidence.
He said, why else are we doing it?
Yeah, and so I think that's the thing is that one of the things that you can see Brian got from his dad is, all right, the preparation and the confidence are massive to getting a team on board with the expectation that we're going to win ball games or we're going to do this and have that sort of approach. And I thought it stood out repeatedly that he was underlining, this is not a goal. This is happening.
Yeah.
And we're doing this. And that may honestly rub some fans the wrong way at some point.
Well, it doesn't for me.
I love it.
I love it too. I remember with Choppy, the first time we asked Garrett, this drove me crazy about the last two regimes. They always wanted to stay away from like these types of statements. What's your identity? No one ever wanted to answer it. McCarthy didn't want to do it. They act like it was some offensive question. Jason Garrett, same thing. Jerry, what do you want the identity of the Dallas Cowboys to be, of your football team? What are you guys? They act like it was a Belichick type question. Brian Schottenheimer did a good job of talking Super Bowl yesterday without it coming across as blustery, headline-y, promotion-y. It felt real. And there's nothing wrong with, in my opinion, saying those types of things strongly, boldly. It doesn't mean jack squat will ever happen, but making these types of statements is something like Jerry Jones is petrified to talk about a Super Bowl around here anymore. He knows it's going to be some gotcha headlines, but there's just been this, like, I don't know whether it's a lack of confidence. I don't know whether I don't know what it's been.
Creates an attitude. It just creates, like, it doesn't matter whether it happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's true.
Yep.
It just creates an attitude.
I mean, Dan Campbell came in and talked in very similar manner in Detroit. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there is an aspect of that.
Winning than we've ever won.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's an aspect of that
Direction.
that Schotty just said. The only thing that could annoy them, I think even when they lose, that's going to be a consistent message from Schottenheimer. He's going to talk about the things they're going to do, and people are going to say, stop talking about it, do it. So when those struggles occur, I think it's going to rub some people the wrong way. But I thought he was really, really strong yesterday, and I think he spoke directly to the fans a couple times. I think he's heard the criticism, and I think he talked to them on a couple different occasions.